Alright, get that going here, and we will start in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 219, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back for another episode here, and what have you been doing this last week, Mr. Kip?
Well, I finally saw Jumanji.
Oh, what'd you think?
Loved it. Thought it was great.
Isn't that a great movie?
It's a great little movie. I totally loved it.
That is a way underrated movie. Let's just put it that way. Way underrated.
Yeah. Well, everybody I talked to said, "Oh, it's so great, you got to see it." And finally, I was able to see it, and I have to agree with everybody.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and we got that one as soon as we could. And that was a movie we actually took the kids to go see in the theater. And the kids loved it in the theater. I was just busting up laughing. The Kevin Hart and his weakness of cake has been a continually running joke in our house since we saw that movie in the theater. So, yeah.
Yeah, between Kevin Hart and Jack Black, there was plenty to laugh at.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get stuck at a couple points where we had to explain like what they were doing when they were trying to teach Jack Black how to pee standing up.
Oh.
And some of the innuendos that came from that were the adults thought was really funny. My 6-year-old had no idea; it just flew over his head, and he didn't even question it. Reese kind of looked at me and goes, "Are they talking about what I think they're talking about?" Yeah, probably.
Damn straight they are.
Like, yep. So yeah, I love that movie. That is well worth go checking out. Everybody should check out Jumanji. That's gonna become a cult classic. So kind of like the original one. But yeah, we this last week I have done nothing but fall farther and farther behind on everything that I need to get done. So I'm falling behind on the Geekvice gaming stuff, although nobody's noticed it yet because I've gotten episodes up there, but I don't have one recorded for Thursday, which I need to do either tonight after this recording or tomorrow afternoon, and then get it edited tomorrow night and put up. So it'll be up there on Thursday. I've fallen behind on all my TV shows. I haven't watched any more Lost in Space, but I did do one thing this last week that is probably worth a note, is I saw Infinity War.
Finally.
So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is Infinity War. We're just going to go all out into this thing. So this is going to be your warning. There'll probably be another warning at some point in this if you skip over this or forget. We're going to talk Infinity War. We're going to talk about we're going to spoil Infinity War. So if you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen. It's just going to happen. You can't talk about this movie and the impact of this movie and what this movie means without spoiling some things. This is a big, important movie to the cinematic universe as we know it right now. And so you have been warned.
That's right. And enough time has gone by that if you haven't seen or heard anything about this movie, then I want to know what size of rock you live under, and is it cool in there during the summertime?
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you haven't seen the movie and I have, then you have a problem because I'm always the last one to watch the movie. Always.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, come on. If you've watched any of the 218 episodes of Geekvice that we've done, I'm always the last one. Everyone else sees the movie, and then I finally see the movie.
Yeah, and sometimes we talk about the movie and you haven't seen it, but you fake it really well too. So,
You know what? That's what my wife says too. Sorry, had to do it. Had to do it. I don't have any really announcements for this week. Um, I guess we should probably throw out there. Comic Con is coming up this summer. I don't have the dates for it because I'm an idiot and didn't look that up beforehand.
it's the week of July. It's the weekend of July 15th. I think it's 13th, 14th, 15th.
Okay, so there you go. It's middle of July, but it's coming up. So make sure you get your tickets and come up to Omaha. Come see some peoples up there. I'm actually going to try to be up there the whole time. Working the podcast arcade little area. I'm actually thinking about, being able to record some stuff up there. So it'd be kind of cool to be able to run into some people and do some recordings. And
Yeah,
maybe do some other stuff. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting for me because that week, leading up to it, I'm driving to Colorado to do 2 or 3 days worth of training up there, and then driving back.
Oh wow!
And then driving to Omaha and spending.
You should just drive from Colorado to Omaha and then do the convention and then drive back.
I would, except for I have to return the rental car.
Yeah, you just make them keep it over the weekend and be like, hey, I need to do some work stuff in Omaha.
Yeah.
I mean, get Eddie to sign off on it. It'll be fine, right?
He's got my back, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, no problems.
And of course, nobody at work listens to this podcast, I think, so I'd be all right.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'm going to be, tired, maybe even grumpy.
Could be.
I doubt I'll be grumpy. You're at a Comic-Con. You can't be grumpy at a Comic-Con. It's just,
No,
it's impossible.
Not at all. I'm hoping that maybe if I'm up there, I'm hoping that maybe I'll be able. Maybe Carl will have a copy of his new RPG. That maybe we could even do like a short little session with him on that.
I would like that.
That would be kind of cool. Kind of get
It'd be very
dibs
cool.
on a brand new RPG. So that would be cool.
Heck yeah.
By Bigfoot Jones himself. All right. Well, should we try to put this off anymore, or should we just dive right into it?
I think feet first. Let's just go.
Feet first. All right. I thought the movie was terrible. It was awful. They shouldn't have done it, and we should move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's exactly what you think.
Yeah, no, that's not it at all. That's not it at all. But I will say, this movie. You know what this movie reminds me of? The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. Explain yourself.
This movie is the movie that by itself is a good movie, but does not tell the story. Does not tell the whole story. It's missing something. The bad guy wins at the end. You feel like you're left. It feels like the second of the Star Wars trilogy is what it feels like.
I'll give you that.
And I'm not saying that it's bad, because honestly, I like Empire Strikes Back. That's one of my favorite ones. Which is probably contrary to a lot of other people's. But I thought this movie was really good. I thought Infinity War was really good. I thought it was really well done. I was expecting a little bit more closure. I was expecting a little bit more, like visual distraughtness. If they were going to end it this way, with basically the Avengers losing, I wish the Avengers would have lost more. Does that make
More
sense?
painfully.
Yeah. Like, um, but hey, we're getting into the very end, so maybe we should go back. We jumped in feet first.
We did.
Let's back it back out a little bit and let's break this thing down. So Kip, what were your overall thoughts of this movie?
My overall thoughts, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Um, I'm not sure it's the best Marvel movie that it's you think it's supposed to be, but I don't think it is.
Right.
I agree with you on the parts that it felt like the only person who had a heart was Thanos. Didn't you kind of feel that way? I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody else, I felt like was checking a box. Thanos is coming here to wipe everybody out, so it's our job to make sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
But Thanos was the only one that really had to deal with emotional issues, and he was the only one that seemed to be affected emotionally. And maybe it's only because the ending happened and then the movie was over and we didn't get to catch up with everybody.
Right.
But I still feel like, wow, he's the one that got kicked in the nuts the hardest by the way he reacted at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think there's a little bit of that. I will agree with you. This is not my favorite movie. This is not my favorite Marvel movie, but it was still really good.
Yes.
It started a really good story. But I agree with you. I felt like, and maybe it was on purpose, the Avengers, all the characters that were in this movie came into this. Thanos was supposed to be the guy that was the ultimate bad guy. He was going to be the guy that's stronger than everyone else. And he was going to come into this thing and just wipe everybody out. And yet, every one of the Avengers didn't seem to be afraid of him. They didn't seem to be concerned. They almost kind of felt like, oh yeah, we got this. We're the Avengers.
Yeah.
And maybe that was on purpose. Maybe that was on purpose so that when the end, when Thanos does win, that it humbles the Avengers, and now they have to, that they have more of an appreciation for what they have. It was a way to catalyst, and like now Tony Stark and Captain America cannot be, on opposite sides of the fence. They got to come together and work together to defeat this guy, because who else is going to do it? Their petty squabble that they had, after Civil War is got to be, who cares about it now? We got a much bigger problem, and we need to, as much as I don't like you, we got to work together type thing.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like, the introduction of the Guardians of the Galaxy fell a little flat. I don't know why I felt that way. I can't put my finger on it, but it just, the whole thing with Thor and Peter Quill trying to, seem more manly in comparison to Thor. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, that was
funny. But I
funny.
still kind of feel like the whole introduction to the entire group was kind of like, oh, by the way, they're here to help. And they're like, okay, great. And then we just go on. It's like, well, I know there's a lot of movie to do and not a whole lot of time to do it, so you can't do everything perfectly. But,
yeah,
I was jonesing for the Guardians of the Galaxy to mix in with the Avengers, and then it was like, oh yeah, here you are. Okay, great.
Yeah, and
I wanted more.
I think it was like that on all fronts too. Like, any of them where they were combining them together. It was almost like it was. Well, I mean, case in point, Captain America showing up in Wakanda, knowing exactly how to get to Wakanda. He just, flew right in, landed, say, "Hey, how you doing?" It was like they were best friends. But to all of us, that's the first time they've ever seen each other.
Yeah.
You know, the and the same thing with Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy. They Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Iron Man, all three of them. Now I guess Iron Man and Spider-Man knew each other, but they didn't know Doctor Strange. And then all of a sudden he's there, and it's like, you know, it, some of the interactions, like what you said, Peter Quill and Thor, I thought was really funny. I liked the Peter Quill Iron Man thing when they're getting ready to fight Thanos. They're like, yeah, you know what? That's an idea, and it's terrible. Why don't you let me plan this, and this will all work out? Type that. I love that, the witty banter between the two of them. I liked the um, hi, I'm Peter Parker. I'm Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using our made-up names. Hi, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
like,
That kind of stuff worked for me as well.
like I enjoyed that stuff. I enjoyed that little slapstick that's just enough to where you're like, yeah, okay, these guys are a little awkward because they don't know each other, but they got to work together because they're the only people that can do anything. And I thought it was really well done with the way they split them up into groups. They split them into the groups, and then towards the end, they kind of brought a lot of them back together for that big battle in Wakanda. I thought that was really good. I liked how that was happening, where you jumped around like, hey, this group of people are trying to do this, and these group of people. It was almost like It's almost like hey, this is the setup. We're all doing these different things, and none of us are actually accomplishing things because we're approaching it from so many different sides. Now you've got everybody together, so this next movie is going to work out because now everybody's together. And we're all going to work together to solve this problem as opposed to a bunch of little different pieces doing things.
Yeah. And I think that was the point of the awkwardness, because I think what it was we're going to defeat Thanos, but my team's going to do it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do it, and you guys are just wasting your time because we're better Avengers than you are.
Right.
But that was fine. I mean, they've been hearing about. I don't even know if they've really been hearing about Thanos coming or not on Earth.
Well,
I'm trying to remember. I'm old, so I can't remember things. But
I think there are some people that I think they knew of him because I think they figured out that that's who Loki was sending in the first. That's who basically helped Loki build that thing, or gave Loki the idea to build that, to get the Chitauri to come through in the very first Avengers movie.
Right.
That was Thanos. Thanos was in the very first Avengers movie. He was the post-trailer scene.
Right, but I don't think the people who fought the army knew Thanos was behind it. They just thought Loki did this, and
Right. Well, and I think they might have, from that point, I think they might have learned it, but we didn't, as an audience, didn't actually see that happen.
Right.
We didn't.
So I kind of felt like they're like, oh, it's another thing we have to beat up.
Yeah.
Beat you, or race you. That it was. Right. It almost had that feel to it, and I think that's what they're trying to do on purpose. That way, they actually have to team up, to, I guess, to bring everybody back. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Well, let's go through the list. How about that? I actually have a list. Hold on, let's pull this up here.
Man, he nerded out. He wrote a list.
So, yeah, the list is. So here's who we know died. Actually died. Not turned to dust. Died. Loki. Dead but is he really dead? I mean, because he's died before and come
Right.
back, so he's dead, but I don't really count him as being dead. But he's on the
He's dead
list,
with a question mark.
right? Hemdall is another one that's dead, which is interesting, being that he's the Rainbow Bridge guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Asgard gets rebuilt. I'm really curious to see how the Thor progression goes with this, but hey, Gamora was one that really shocked the shit out of me. I did not expect her to die, or at least not at the beginning. We also have Vision dead. Now he is a robot, so he could get rebuilt. It's possible. They did say that he could live without the Mind Stone. He's got enough,
Right.
AI in him that he could live without it. Um, so there's a possibility the Vision comes back. I gotta say, before we go on farther, I really liked the Vision. Like, I liked Vision in Age of Ultron. I was not a big fan of Vision in this movie.
Oh, really?
I feel like they made him weaker. Vision is supposed to be like, he's a Omega level like superhero. He is like, he's supposed to be smarter than everybody else. He's supposed to be, I mean, he's a freaking computer brain. Like, he's supposed to be, I don't know. I have to go back and look through the comics. That was one thing I wasn't able to find, was whether or not in the comic books, I know he didn't have the Mind Stone in the comic books. That was not part of it. Um, but if Vision was part of the Infinity Gauntlet story in the comic books or not, because the way they the way they did it in the movies, they basically stopped his ability to phase, because he could turn himself, basically change the density of his body to either make him like super heavy and really strong, or so light that he could, or less dense that he could pass through walls. Like,
Yeah.
and they kind of took that away from him in this one, and they based it off of one of the bad guys, you know, weapons that stopped, that stopped him from being able to do that. But I don't know. I'm guessing maybe they did that in order to um, be able to extract the Mind Stone from him. I don't know. But I just didn't. I didn't feel like Vision was. I don't know. I felt like they nerfed him a lot. He could have been stronger.
Maybe it's because he was in love.
Could be. Could be. I don't know.
You
He got
know,
weak.
there
Women made him
there's
weak.
that whole thing that, like, if you're an athlete and you have a big game tomorrow, you're not supposed to get laid the night before. It affects your performance the next day.
That's
Maybe
true.
that was Vision's problem.
Maybe that was Vision's problem.
Yeah.
It is. It is definitely possible. But he did get his head just flat ripped like freaking frontal lobotomy. That was kind of funny. Funny in a scary way, not funny in a ha way.
Can say you may be the only person I know that referred to that as funny.
Yeah. Um,
Maybe you didn't see the same movie I did. I don't know.
yeah. Or I just have a demented sense of humor that
There's
laugh
that.
at somebody getting their brain ripped out. Yeah, um, I was talking with Amber about it, and because we were talking about it when the kids weren't around, because we've been debating on whether or not to let our kids watch this movie, and because it was, it's one of those, we knew a lot of Avengers, died in this movie, and we were like, is this going to be something where the kids go and watch this and they're completely distraught afterwards? And so I was telling her that Vision got his, brain ripped out, and her eyes got real big. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "He's a robot. It's okay." She's like, "Oh." Okay. She's like, I thought you were talking about somebody actually getting their brain ripped out. Like, yeah, no, not it's robot brain, so it's
No,
just
he
like
got his hard
circuits.
drive removed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The whole thing, as far as the ending when he snaps his fingers and all that,
mm-hmm.
was anticlimactic for me, mostly because, and this is sad to say, but I know whose movies are coming out in the next couple of years,
Yeah.
and when and they disappeared, it's like, okay, so that isn't permanent. So what's going to
Right.
happen from here?
So, well, here's the thing, and here's the comic book tie to this. Is in the comic books, the way this the way this plays out is Nebula, who is actually still alive in the movie universe.
Uh huh.
Um, Nebula actually steals the gauntlet from Thanos and basically reverses everything that happens.
That's what happens in the comics.
That's what happens in the comics. Then the Avengers, like Nebula is still a bad guy, so the Avengers are like, oh, well, she can't keep it, so they recruit Thanos to actually help them defeat Nebula. There's your comic book. There's
That's interesting.
your comic book warping, but Nebula basically brings everybody back. So,
How far back? Is the part I'm wondering.
well, I
Is
mean,
it just the people who turn to dust, or are they going to take things back far enough
well,
till it's like Loki and Hemdall
here's
and all them
so
return?
here maybe, but I could see now, like, you go from this and think about what happened in the movie. So Gamora didn't want to give up where the Soul Stone was until she saw Nebula being basically tortured by Thanos. And then, Nebula was all pissed off when she found out that Gamora was sacrificed to get the Soul Stone. It's very possible that if they play this out, Nebula could take the gauntlet and reverse everything back to where Gamora died and bring Gamora back, which would mean Vision comes back and Gamora comes back, but leaves Loki and Heimdall because she doesn't really know those people.
No,
You
she
know,
doesn't.
she doesn't really have a tie to either of them, but she does have a tie to Gamora. So I could see them doing a little bit something like that. Um, I could see um, there's a little part of me that wonders if, and I haven't looked up to see when the Captain Marvel movie comes out. Does that come out before May of next year? See, and that's kind of the thing too, is who's going to be in the next movie?
Yeah, I can't remember when.
So who's going to be the big hero? It could be that.
Yeah, Captain Marvel comes out 2 months before the next Infinity War.
So it's possible that maybe Captain Marvel has a big role to play, being she's a cosmic superhero. Maybe,
Well,
maybe,
the end credit scene kind of
yeah.
gave that away.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, um, and it's and I agree with you to go back. Well, to keep on pace here, we've got all these people that have died. We have these people that have turned to dust, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I felt like some of those were very anticlimactic. I wish they would have done some different characters. So the ones that are turned to dust, we have Black Panther, which we already know there's going to be a second Black Panther movie, so he's not going to stay dead.
Right.
Spider-Man, we know there's not going to be. We know there's another Spider-Man movie coming out, so he's not staying dead. Doctor Strange, They've already announced the second Doctor Strange movie, so he's not staying dead. Um, Winter Soldier and Falcon, those maybe could stay dead or in dust. Uh, those were a little kind of, oh, that's going to be kind of painful for Captain America, but not really painful for us, the viewers.
Yeah.
Um, the one that I think the ones that actually made me kind of sad was seeing Scarlet Witch go. I kind of thought she would stay, and with the mourning of Vision and her, like woman scorn type, you know, go crazy.
Right.
Maybe a House of M type storyline to where she goes and says no more. Well, for those of you that don't know, House of M is a storyline in the X-Men comic books where Scarlet Witch basically says no more mutants, and there's no more mutants. The the X gene basically, you know, goes away and no mutants are born anymore. Some mutants lose their powers, some keep theirs for some mysterious reason. So that but they go from being thousands of mutants to being like, less than 100. And no new mutants are being born type thing. So Scarlet Witch has that ability in her to be able to do that. So, she could, her going against Thanos would be a fun, mystic, magical type battle. And then the other ones are the Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord, Groot, Drax, Mantis all turned to dust, but they've already announced a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so we know they're not staying dead.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when Rocket was the only one that survived.
Yeah. And then,
well, I guess you could say Nebula, but
yeah. But I mean, I don't know if she's really considered part of the Guardians of the Galaxy or not.
yeah, I don't know. I would, yeah. I guess it just, you could say, well, she's in the movie and she helped him in the last one, so maybe.
Well, and then you got your end credit scene where Nick Fury and Maria Hill turn to dust. But
yes,
like those aren't, as important as those characters are to the continuity of the movies, they're not really main characters in the movies, so they don't really have that same emotional draw. So basically, with all of those characters that have turned to dust, the only ones that you look at and go, "Nah," are Winter Soldier, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch. Those are the only ones that don't have like solo movies coming up, or their own movies coming up.
Yeah.
So that was to me they kind of messed that up a little bit there. They kind of made it less important. Now, if they would have killed off Captain America, if Captain America would have turned to dust, Iron Man turned to dust, Thor, which I don't think they can do Thor because I'm pretty sure they're going to need Thor to kill Thanos with his god-killing axe that he has, which is in the comic books. Which is
Stormbreaker.
Yep, very cool. So I mean, there's all. If they would have gotten rid of some of those, even just one or two of them, that would have been a bigger. I think that would have been a bigger impact because there aren't nobody said anything about a Captain America movie. Captain America 4 coming out. Nobody said anything about Iron Man 4 coming out. Nobody said anything about Thor 4 coming out. Even if they would have done something like the Bruce Banner, that would have been even, a little bit more dramatic because it would have been like, oh man, our heavy hitter is out. Even though I thought it was really well done with the way they kept kept Hulk out of this. Basically got his ass beat early on, and he's like, screw you, I'm not coming out.
Yep. Deuces.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sad that we can temper our reaction to something based on what we know about future movies coming out. I guess it's the good and the bad with having the big plan and everybody knows what it is. But
Yeah.
I still had that moment of like, holy shit, him? No way, you know.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, I honestly thought, because I have not read the comics, I know, boo me, but I honestly thought it was going to be a movie where he gets like four of them or five of them, and then the second movie was going to be about them trying to stop him from getting the sixth one, and then they, you know, people die in the battles, but it's not that he got them all six and snapped his fingers.
Right.
So I was naive in that. So when he got the sixth one, I'm sitting there going, "No way! This isn't what I thought was going to happen."
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, and I think that's what they kind of hinged on. They hinged on that idea that this was a movie for, it was a superhero movie for people who weren't superhero comic fans. Because in the comic books there is the iconic scene of Thanos snapping his fingers. That it's just even black and white. The whole book's in color, but that one panel of him snapping his fingers is in black and white.
Oh,
And
wow, okay.
And it's very like, it's a very iconic. All it does is show his hand, and it just says snap. You know, and it's like, oh shit, it just got real. And
Yep, the lights just went out.
so so I was, you know, I was glad that they kind of kept that in there. I'm really curious to see with the next movie, but you know, to kind of get to the end of it, you know, it's like when I got to the end of the movie and we saw, I thought it was very fitting. I thought the end of the movie, that last scene where Thanos, you know, walks out and kind of, you know, sees the sunset and just kind of like sits down and chills, you know, because he had said like, well, what are you gonna, somebody had asked him, I don't remember who it was in the movie, but somebody had asked him, well, what are you gonna do after you remove half of the people, you know, half of the creatures in the universe? What are you gonna do then? And he's like, I'm gonna sit down and watch the sunset and, you know, watch civilization, you know, thrive type thing. And sure as shit, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Just plopped his ass in a chair and watched the sunset. And I thought that was very fitting. I thought that was really good. But then when the final credits rolled, I was like, that's it? I wanted more. Like, I wanted the movie to keep going. I wanted the next part.
Well, yeah, you want the movie to keep going. I mean, that's a sign that they did it right. I thought leading up to that was probably the most powerful scene in the movie, and that's when he goes back and sees little Gamora.
Yeah.
And she asked him what it costs, and he said it cost everything. It's like, that is the scene.
Yeah.
That is the scene that is for the entire movie right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, that was powerful. That was, you know, and I thought that was really well done with the way that happened, that scene, and then you started seeing everyone turn to dust. And, you know, it was, I thought this movie was really well done. I just felt like the ending wasn't the ending, and we need the other damn movie that comes out in a year.
Well, so, you said it. It's Empire Strikes Back. You know.
Yeah.
The evil one for now. You know. Right. Won this battle, but the war's not over, I guess is the way to put that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we had tickets to see it that Friday of opening weekend and Saturday of opening weekend. So we saw it on Friday, and then Saturday morning when it came around to go see the movie, we both looked at each other, I don't want to see it again. And so we didn't go see it. We burned the tickets. Not because it was a bad movie. but I think because I won't be able to see it again until I've seen the second movie. And then every time I watch this one, I'm going to have to watch both of those back to back.
Yep.
I don't think I can watch that one on its own.
I Yeah, I can see that. And this movie is I mean, Infinity War is the bad guys kicking the crap out of every hero. Every single hero gets their ass handed to them, and it starts from the very opening scene when it's just straight up an immediate battle between Thanos, his his minions, and Thor, Loki, and Hulk.
Yep. And they didn't stand a chance.
No, and they beat the crap out of Hulk so much so that Heimdall had to basically send Hulk to Earth really quickly, so that he wouldn't be killed, and so he could be able to warn everyone that Thanos was coming. Like, that was, I mean, that was the very opening scene. That was like even before the opening credits rolled. That happened, and it was nonstop after that. So I think it should be important for me to point out that there are a lot of action scenes in this, and for anyone who's listened to my rants about Michael Bay and his, movies that all they are explosions and action scenes and no story in between. This movie is exactly, if Michael Bay wants to learn how to tell his type of movies right, he should watch this movie. Because this movie goes
Absolutely.
from action scene to action scene to action scene over and over, and in between there is just enough story and dialogue to move you from one action scene to the next, to tell you why they're going from this point to this point and why they're fighting. Like, it was perfect. Like, it was really well laid out, and you could watch this movie and understand what was happening. So the action fit within the story itself. And sure, if you want to go and think about it a little bit more, it was obvious that the battle was going to go to Wakanda's front lines. They had the most soldiers. Everybody was there. Line it all up. But that was also in the comic books as well. That scene of the invasion coming into Wakanda and all of the army of Wakanda and all the different tribes lined up, that's straight out of the comic books. That was just there, and I thought it was really well done. I thought it was perfect. I thought the
Yeah.
way they handled that was really good. I loved watching those sequences. I loved seeing I loved seeing Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster armor and falling over as he was trying to run. Like, that was great. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
they did the right amount of humor
yeah,
and the right type of humor. I mean, it was a little bit of what you got in everybody's movie. There was the Guardians humor, there was Iron Man's humor, calling that one guy Squidward and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah,
it was perfectly combined in there without feeling forced, without missing the mark.
yeah.
Uh, I love it when he tries to turn into Hulk, and Hulk's like, "No." And he's like, "What do you mean, no?" I mean, that
We're gonna
stuff
have a
just worked.
conversation after this. Fine, I'll do
Yeah,
it
I think the
myself.
movie was pretty fantastic. I said at the jump that I didn't think it's the best Marvel movie, but it's probably top five.
I mean,
Um,
it's hard to. We're starting to get so many Marvel movies that are so different in the type of story that they're telling and the type of movie that they are, that it's getting hard to rank them together. I would say that this movie is the second best Avengers movie. I liked the first one better than this one, but I think I liked the first one better because the first one was the first one. And I did go, as I had mentioned before, my family is going through watching all the movies chronologically, and we just watched the Avengers this weekend, maybe last weekend, or maybe this last week, something like that. We just watched the Avengers here recently with the kids, so I've just watched that. I watched that movie and then immediately turned around and watched Infinity War. So, watching those two back to back, I think the first Avengers movie is a better Avengers movie than this one. But this one is a very good, like, to deal with the huge cast of characters that it had to deal with. This movie handled it flawlessly. Like, it wasn't about character development for the characters yet. That character development's going to come in the next movie, is my opinion. You're going to see the characters, have to work together. You're going to see the people who, had disagreements like Iron Man and Captain America going to have to come together. The other thing is you're going to have a Wakanda civilization without a leader.
Yeah.
That's going to have to do something. They're going to have to come together. So, with that being said, the characters that you still have alive that are going to have to reverse all the stuff that happened: Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hulk, War Machine, Rocket, Nebula, Okoye, and M'Baku are, like, those are the main characters that are still alive that we know of.
What's the name of Doctor Strange's sidekick? Is it
That is Wong.
Wong? That's it.
And so here's a list of people. This is also, I've got another list here, Geek Central here, another list of characters we don't know what happened to them. They could be there. They could have survived. They maybe didn't. We don't know because we never saw them. One is Shuri from, the tech person for Black Panther's sister, who's the tech genius. We don't see anything happen to her. She basically brings Vision back to life, and then the battle goes away from her. We don't ever know what happened to her. We don't know if she turned to dust or not. Same goes for Pepper Potts,
Yeah.
Hawkeye, Ant-Man, the Collector. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Valkyrie from the Thor Ragnarok movie, Tessa Thompson's character, she wasn't in this movie at all, so we have no idea what's with her. And then the same thing, and then Wong is on that list because we don't know anything. We don't know where he went either. He went back to the only thing we know is he went back to the Sanctum Sanctorum to protect it because Doctor Strange wasn't there anymore. But we don't know what happens. And then we don't know how Captain Marvel fits into this either. I mean, obviously, we're going to assume she's alive because the movie comes out before the next movie. But also, I think, if I remember right, the Captain Marvel movie is supposed to take place during the 80s.
Well, it takes place far enough back that Ronan's in it.
Yeah, so I don't know how that's going to fit. Like, I don't know how that's really going to play out. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited for that movie, mostly because I know she is going to be an important cog in the second Infinity Wars movie.
Yeah.
Plus, I love Brie Larson. I mean, who doesn't? Yeah. And I really like Ronan. I like Lee Pace. He doesn't get enough credit for what he's done in his career. Lord of the Rings, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. Right. I don't think people know what his name is, but he's really good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that he gets to be Ronan again, and so.
Yeah, it'll be curious. So that's that's what we've got. I don't really know how this is going to play out. There's lots of different options here. They've left a lot of doors open, but they've also left a lot of things to where I think the character development, I think we're going to start seeing. One of the complaints about this movie was there was no character development. The characters didn't seem to evolve throughout this movie. But I think what happened is this is the traumatic thing that happens to all the characters, that now in the next movie they're going to have to deal with it and evolve. We're going to see some character development. We're going to see Iron Man deal with the loss of Spider-Man, the kid that he didn't want to come with him because, or didn't want him to be an Avenger because he didn't want him to put himself in harm's way. You're gonna have Rocket, and having to deal with the loss of Groot a second time, the loss of his whole team. You're gonna have Nebula dealing with the loss of Gamora. You're gonna have Wakanda dealing with the loss of, of T'Challa. There's a lot of loss that's going to have to be dealt with in the next movie, and I hope that means that the character development, that the emotional I don't know what word I'm looking for, the emotions of the characters is going to get played with a lot more, that we're going to see some more of that in the movie. Fingers crossed. I don't know, maybe.
Hope so.
It would be a good thing. It would be a good thing. So, that's what we got. We covered the whole movie, beginning to end.
We complained a little bit. We gushed a little bit. I think that's pretty much the movie.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be, we should probably throw out there the fact that this movie was the fastest film in history to reach a worldwide gross of $1 billion. And he did it in 11 days.
Yeah. People have been jonesing to see this movie for a very long time.
Well, I mean, they've been hinting at this movie since, again, the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Which was quite a while ago. So, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. You should all go see it if you haven't seen it yet. So
I just can't see it a second time until the second movie. I've seen the second movie.
I might end up watching it again. Maybe I'll watch it with my kids. But because I'm kind of curious to see how they react to it. They're young enough to not, fully understand, and that there's another movie coming. So I kind of want to show it to them to see, like, do they freak out seeing that Thanos wins, and the Avengers lose? I don't know. I kind of want to see that. So I might torture my kids by making them watch this movie. Alrighty. So, any last words before we close this thing down?
I'm glad I finally saw this movie, and I'm all in on everything Marvel. But we rewatched Justice League this evening. That's a movie that gets better every time I watch it. So if you haven't seen Justice League in a while, I highly suggest rewatching it. I think you'll be surprised how good it is.
I don't think I've watched it the first time yet.
Well, you should.
See, I told you I'm behind.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I own it. Just haven't watched it yet. So.
Well, you should watch it. Then you can tell me what you think.
All right. Well, maybe I'll be able to fit that in this weekend and watch it, and then maybe next week we could talk Justice League.
Hey, there you go. Because we're way up on current events.
Hey, why not? I don't know. Are there any other good movies coming out? Deadpool's coming up here really soon too.
Yeah, I got my tickets for Deadpool and my tickets for Han Solo, so yeah. I'm set.
Yeah, so I will not be seeing Han Solo opening weekend. I will guarantee you I won't see either of those movies opening weekend. I'm pretty confident of that. But my wife really wants to see Deadpool 2. So there's a good chance that I see that one close to the opening weekend. Because if she wants to go see a movie, especially a superhero movie, I am definitely taking her to see the superhero movie.
Yeah, you got to do it then.
You got to do it. All right, guys. It's time to close this door. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekvice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can just go to Facebook, click on the YouTube link right there. You can hit subscribe right from your Facebook page. I made sure that worked today too. You can follow us on Twitter, that man at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Done.